absolute horror show for us Juventini. What was the Derby d'Italia? 5 a.m. here. Luca, 8 a.m. your time. And at least, I don't even know what a positive would be out of here. It's a tough one to recap. I would have liked better circumstances, but we've got a lot to discuss in terms of post-match discussion, what everybody's feelings were. So the thing is, I usually put on the ticker here of the scoreline. I don't even want to look at it. It's going to be bad enough talking about it, so I'm not going to have that on here. Anyone that's tuning in onto the video on YouTube or whatnot. But yeah, man, the day after, how's it feeling? Any better? Not for me. How about you, Luca?
Well, I mean, you throw in the sleep, the couple of drinks I had last night, and the fact that it's early as hell over here. I'm gonna say I'm not as emotional about it. Like, I'm not gonna start yelling on the pod because it's early, but it still hurts. Like, I'm thinking about it, and I'm thanking you for not putting the score up because, like you said, I don't want to be reminded right now. So it's not as bad.
Yeah.
The sting is out of it, but that lingering like stench in the air is still there.
Yeah, it's frustrating, man. I mean, you've got I don't know. I just I even remember talking about the build up to this match and saying I had this feeling with it that it could go either way. It could be really, really bad, or it could be somewhat good. And usually when you have those feelings about your club, it's like, and when I think of other sports, other teams I follow, if I have that feeling going into a match where it could be either really, really bad for us or okay, somewhat good for us, it's usually a sign that there's a team in flux there. Consistency is the big word with us. I mean, I think that little streak we were on was the first time we tallied 3 wins consecutively. And that's not really good enough for Juve. So it's tough. And then this match, I speak about it all the time. I like to watch the matches twice. There's no way in hell I'm watching this one twice. It was impossible. I think I watched a highlight recap just to see a couple things I wanted to look at. But honestly, no. When we played Fiorentina and we got beat, I said that is hands down probably the worst I've ever seen Juventus play. And Juve yesterday said, hold my beer. Because that was probably the worst I've seen them play. And the fact that it came in such a big match is what's got Juventini fairly alarmed right now. And I think with good reason. When we talk about this match, honestly, to not see fire or drive out of your guys, that's the most upsetting part. And honestly, I think outside of 2, maybe 3 players, I didn't see it. I didn't see it, man. And that's the frustrating part. It's okay to lose, but I gotta see fight. I gotta see a performance that you can at least hold your head up about and be happy about. But the fact is that one's just flat out embarrassing. On all accounts, really. We're going to get into it. We'll start off with the lineups because this is what, you spoke about it, and we almost all had the same kind of thoughts leading into it. But we had Szczesny, Danilo, Bonucci, Chiellini. We had Frabotta on one side, Chiesa on the other, with a midfield of Rabiot, Bentancur, and Ramsey, with Morata and Cristiano Ronaldo up top. So for me, what I spoke to in the pre-match live, I was talking about on that side, the thing that seemed a little confusing was if you've got Frabotta there to line up against Hakimi, you're thinking Frabotta will be defensively set to just kind of hang on to Hakimi. However, you've got Ramsey on that side, who is your midfielder you use in a creative aspect, so he's going to be pushing forward. So that part of it contradicted itself right off the bat. Because if Ramsey's going to push forward, he's not going to get the support from Frabota needed if he's going to be forced to hang back because of Hakimi, right? So it's a little bit weird. But then in retrospect, you look at the opposite side and you think Chiesa should be able to torch Young. And I thought he would, but should they have flipped Ramsey and Rabiot there so at least you can push through one side, force a mismatch for them on one side, and give yourself some defensive support on the other? It was a bit weird. And I know hindsight's 2020, but it was an odd kind of setup looking at it from the start. In terms of the midfield, McKennie obviously would have been the preferred choice. However, if he wasn't 100% fit, I said in the pre-match, let's hang on to him if he's not 100% fit, because in this match you want guys 100% fit. I was probably so wrong about that, and I was so wrong about Frabota's fucking defense. But man, yeah, McKennie, even at fucking 70% or whatever the hell he was when he entered, provided some energy. But your thoughts on the lineup when we saw it originally, Luca?
Well, I had put it out, and I mean, I'm pretty sure everybody felt the same way with the players we had available. I think that was our best lineup. That's, it's the same. It was the same outlook when we played Milan, and it's the same outlook yesterday. So I think the players that he chose, I mean, maybe aside from Frabotta, it could have been better. Now you can have that argument with Eric all you want, but for us to discuss it amongst each other, I think Frabotta, was fine. He displayed himself pretty well against Milan. So although, seeing it the day after, obviously we saw how he performed wasn't the case. It was the best 11 we had. How they would set themselves up on the field against Merda was another story. So I had no issues with the lineup going in. But like you said, once the game went, a couple minutes in, you're like, oh my God, I'll take McKennie with one leg. Give me Artur with half a body. I don't care at this point, because Rabiot's not contributing forward and he's not defending at all. Ramsey is trying to do two roles and he's getting caught in between, and he's getting absolutely blistered by Hakimi. And then Bentancur is, well, Bentancur. Like, you can't say anything about that more than we already have either in the past or we will today. But I think the lineup was, like we said, the best we could hope for going into it.
Yeah, and I think that's true. I mean, we knew De Ligt was going to be a big loss at the back. So you lost De Ligt. We had no Sandro, who would have been to fight back against Hakimi in that side. But yeah, I mean, in terms of what we had, it should have been better than what we saw. So Dan Lucci joined us saying agreed, Al swapping Chiesa to the other side may have helped as much as Frabotta wasn't great. He had no support from Ramsey. Yeah, absolutely. That side just got obliterated. We get to the match. We're going to do some recaps on highlights and then get into all the discussion everybody I'm sure we're going to get into here. Luis saying Cuadrado and Sandro are must starts when healthy. Yeah, absolutely. Except I think Chiesa, when on, might be able to provide more on the right side, but Cuadrado's got his role too and his part to play for sure, Luis. So we get an insane amount of fireworks at the start of this game. I don't know what the hell was going on. I was like, what the, like, it was just so weird. I'm like, are they going to stop that? It was just like fireworks going off, smoking. I was like, is Merda just trying to smoke us off the pitch here? Like, I don't understand what's going on. And then Bonucci, we had to stop play. He's got something in his eye, and I'm thinking, Jesus Christ, like, what is happening here? And then we get playing here, and 10 minutes in, and I'm jumping already. I'm thinking, holy Christ, we just scored like in 10 minutes against Merda. We get the ball deep to Morata. He finds Rabiot, takes a rip, Chiesa found offside, though. Ronaldo's celebration got halted pretty damn fast, and I had to cool my jets there a bit. Yeah. Then 2 minutes later, like, unbelievable, man. Just an absolute nightmare. And basically, you've got Vidal passing it off in possession to the right. Where's Barella? Frabotta going over there. Barella finds his cross in. After Vidal had this was an absolute shit show. After Vidal had passed over to Frabotta, he literally runs right by Rabiot. Now, Rabiot seems to let him go, thinking that he's probably got support in behind. And to be honest, he should have. But the reason he didn't was because our right wing back, Chiesa, was at the top of the area for some reason. And it was a clusterfuck is really the only way you could put it. If you freeze frame this here, I know initial reaction is to get a little upset with Danilo not having better position on Vidal, but you can't because he's got young back post behind him, which is Chiesa's responsibility, and he's left all alone because Chiesa's at the top of the area. But we have three midfielders, and not one of them helped pick up the numbers on the back end. And in the same regards, Szczesny hasn't communicated anything, and our defense hasn't communicated anything to get one of those midfielders back. But if you're Rabiot, anybody for that matter, it's always stick to your man until communicated not to. And if the communication doesn't come, then it becomes their issue. But you followed your man. You've done what you had to. If a trailing guy gets you, then it becomes another guy's fault. But way too easy. And of course it had to be fucking Vidal, man. Jesus Christ. So Vidal scores. It's 1-0. And man, that absolute nightmare start there. 2 minutes later, Vidal again gets into a prime area, misses high and goes wide there. And then 22nd minute, Lukaku running at us, cuts to his left, stopped by Tech, but literally falls right to Lautaro. And I thought that was the second goal for sure. He missed, trying to slot that one home. And man, I'm thinking this is not good. I think Pirlo probably thought what was going to happen is this game would be a little more wide open, and that he could get away with that side on the left being a little bit off in terms of who he has, because he could attack through Chiesa should the game be wide open. But Merda actually stuck to their guns, and they built a 5-man wall right across the back and had their 3 midfielders in the heart and 2 forwards up top. And they were happy to add 1 midfielder, which ended up being Barella, to counters with Lautaro and Lukaku. And then Hakimi's got intense wheels. He was joining in the rush, and it was ugly. We just got picked apart, and Pirlo didn't respond, didn't answer, didn't change anything up. But as soon as you see Merda building that 5-man wall, Juve has problems breaking that down, and us trying to just pass around the perimeter and going nowhere. Like, we literally worked so hard to get to the ball into the friggin' corners with nowhere to go. It was like we just were doing the same thing side to side, working around that perimeter, making no progress. And it's like, when are you going to switch it up and change? You had to change something. Whether if you want to still keep Ramsey out there, that's fine. Move him more centrally. Spread out Bentancur and Rabiot, create 2 pivots that are wider, with Ramsey essentially coming from the middle, and then use Morata to go side to side. You would create some triangles because they had no play to go inside. When the ball hit Chiesa or Frabotta, there was nowhere to go inside. They literally just kept us to the outside, and we were happy to do so. And that was the part that was so frustrating to watch. You know, 37th minute, Lukaku. I don't know how. Well, I know why he flubs it, but thank Christ he did. Right. Um, all alone, top of the area. Chiellini spread right out because that side got owned where Frabota and Ramsey were. So Chiellini had no choice. He had to make a decision. Do I stay back? Do I attack the ball? He goes for the ball. The pass comes over, and Lukaku flubs it. Man, honestly, I think like 44th minute, we had like a little spurt of pressure. There was a header attempt by CR, but he was never getting the ball. Even for him, it was so high. And we hit halftime, and man, adjustments needed. It was so bad, and we were so flat, and the ball was moving so slow, just no urgency, right? And where's that fight, right? But so far in that half, man, just ugly, flat out ugly on everything, on attitude, on tactics, all of it. It was bad. Changes needed to be made. Were we going to see it? This would be what we get from Pirlo. But your thoughts at halftime, man?
Halftime to me felt like the halftime of Cardiff. Or sorry, not even the halftime, the end of Cardiff. I felt for the first time in maybe X amount of years that we were not only losing, but we're losing more than the game. I felt there was more than the game at stake because we've lost in the past. We've taken random losses, whether it was in the Supercoppa or the Coppa Italia or whatever. Like, we've taken losses. Juventus is not perfect. So for me, that was fine. I don't mind losing once in a while. But for the first time in a while, we're losing, but we're not at the top of the table. It's not like we can afford a loss. We can't. Right now, we need every point we can accumulate. So by halftime, I'm just like, I'm beyond pissed. My friends are texting me. I turned off my phone. I told them to shut the hell up. This is the first time I've ever done that. I'm usually, the calm voice. I'm thinking, okay, we got this. Come back. No, I lost it. I walked away, and I'm thinking, there's almost no coming back from this because what's our bench like? Our bench is, we got Weston at, like you said, maybe 70%, which to me has to come on. Artur, I don't even care if he's pooped from the Wednesday game. Put him on. He could do, 10 times better at least in holding possession. And we have changed the system because we're getting picked apart. Simple as that. And as you said, change up just the formation in the mid. Whether you want to change up to a 4-5-2 or even I don't care 3-5-2. I don't care what it took from Pirlo. I needed to see a change. And then I think it was one of the reporters from ESPN. I'm not sure. I forgot his name now at the moment, but he had mentioned that Weston was warming up to come on to the second. So I'm like, okay, he's reacting. He's putting on a player because he knows we need to change. And then I see the second half start and nothing changed. So for me, I went from being pissed to extremely pissed because I know even though there's 45 minutes left, either they someone slaps the shit out of every player in that changing room and everyone comes out completely different, which the odds are like extremely low, or they come out doing exactly the same thing they were doing first half, which the odds were extremely high, and that's exactly what happened. So 2 minutes into the second half, I'm thinking nothing's changed. They're going to score again. And I had no other feelings. We could talk about formation, we could talk about motivation, we could talk about everything, and my mind was just utterly emotional. I couldn't deal with it. It was frustrating, very frustrating.
I know, and that's all it was. I mean, it was just so bad. And we got some comments coming here. And for anybody that's listening to this podcast on audio, just keep in mind if you want to take part in these discussions, we are recording these live now on YouTube the morning after match days, so you can get your comments in as well if you join us on the YouTube channel. So please subscribe. But Eric Casternio Gibbs here. Barella and Hakimi bossing the left side is why I argued against Ramsey for both the pairing. Ramsey doing fuck all and Frabota, who moves at half the speed of smell. I thought formation-wise, we were already at a disadvantage. Eric is absolutely money for some of these comments when he comes in live. But yeah, I mean, that pairing got owned us on that side. Francisco, all about tactics and midfielders' intensity. That left side was destroyed. Frabota was defending two guys and is not fair to him, honestly. Yeah, I mean, and that's why we talked to before. It's and this is, again, we talked about earlier in the lineups and whatnot, when somebody was making some comments post-match about better options we could have played or whatnot. I saw so much wrong that tactically, if you were going to keep a midfielder to the outside, and this is Pirlo's little hybrid thing where you push through that guy, you're creating a side with a little bit of a hole and a weakness, right? He just didn't adapt, and Merda was more than happy to sit back on that 5-man wall and then pick it apart the second they got the ball and realized that there was space on that side to operate, and all it did was spread out Bentancur from one side to the other. We've seen this before. This is not the first time this has happened to this setup. When it's great, it's awesome. When it's not, it gets picked apart on counters way too easy. So Pirlo had to adjust. But we get into halftime. No changes at that point. And again, when we talk about intensity, intensity is great. And the problem is when it's broken tactically, it doesn't matter how intense you are. It just won't amount to anything. We had nowhere to work, and we didn't change our angle of attack, our ideas or whatnot. Cristiano Ronaldo was almost rendered useless because he was everywhere. He was drifting all over the place in order to find the ball because we couldn't get it to the forwards. But again, Morata has got to be that focal point. He's got to shift, and that's why I said shift where Ramsey is. So you put your link in an easier, he's got to be easily accessible to both wing backs, and then get Morata and Ronaldo needed to be tight and close together. Ronaldo drifting all over the place and outside. That just, what's he going to do? There's nothing to do out there. He needs to be close to Morata and in and around that area, at least drawing fouls, at least causing problems. And at least if he does get the ball and he beats a guy, he's in an area where he can have a strike on goal. But to have them drift all over, it literally looked like they were like, fuck this, we're going rogue. And it was like all our guys started going rogue. Like Chiesa, Morata, Ronaldo. It was just like there was no plan. It was like we went out the gate with plan A. It didn't work whatsoever. And the guys were like, oh, fuck this. What are we going to do? And it's frustrating. It's frustrating, and it shouldn't be like that. But yeah, we get to the second half highs. Honestly, not really much from a Juve standpoint. 50th minute, Danilo puts a really nice cross, and their CR7 seemed to stop. I think he was wanted on the head. It ended up going back post behind Skriniar. Would have been awesome if he continued the run, but such is life. A minute later, this is absolutely fucking brutal when you freeze frame this thing. Like, again, a problem created because of how the midfield set up and pushing one of those midfielders out the side with Ramsey, but the midfield's all out of sorts. The press nowhere near being in sync, yet Chiesa lost on his side. Danilo gets sucked into no man's land. He's like out to where Chiesa's guy should be. And that's just because we were trying to press, but it's not balanced. So he's stuck. Bonucci, I don't even know where the fuck he was going. Bonucci was like, it looked like he was trying to take where one of the midfielders was going to be. Well, should have been. But there was a midfielder not far off from there, so make the call. Hang back. He literally leaves Chiellini at the back against Lukaku. Barella sees this massive hole, and he makes a run through him. Bastoni, credit where credit is, even though I fucking hate that team. He puts a money ball there, and Frabota can't catch up to Barella. Chiellini, not at this stage in his career. And Barella makes a hell of a finish. I saw some Juventini giving shouts, getting upset with Szczesny, but what's he going to do? Honestly, I mean, that ball was perfect. He's not going to race out and grab that. Barella's way too quick for that.
How can you go out and I'm sorry, no, I usually don't jump in like this, but how can you shit on Szczesny there? How?
No.
What is he supposed to do? You put yourself even he's in no man's land. If he saves that, you give him a $5 million bonus right there. I don't even care because that is like a 1 out of 100 chance to save, if you ask me. So not even close to being his fault.
Yeah. And then Francisco coming in with the system is not bad because you choose which wing to be less strong, but Juve left expose Inter's strongest wing. Hakimi, Lukaku, and Barella, what's Robota supposed to do? Yeah, it's a combination of making sense too with the lineup and stuff. The system, it's still, I think it's still, the jury's still out on this system, I think. Like, honestly, like I like it when things go well, but it can be easily exposed because we don't have an alternative method to attack. So even if you know which wing is your strongest, you have no alternative to when clubs park that 5-man wall across the back. That's the issue I have with this system. Okay. So it's not necessarily the system as a whole, it's Pirlo expanding, involving that system, so that we have something that we can work with even in this scenario. And because this is not the first time we've seen that. And that's kind of what I was getting at. But yeah, Barella, Berrizer at 2-0. I honestly, fuck, man. The even at that amount of minute,
yeah. Like even though we saw like a little bit of a chance right before, as soon as I saw Ronaldo not jump for that header, like he's got his thumb up, you say, okay, move on to the next. I'm thinking, no, that was a chance. We're not going to get something decent compared to that. And as soon as I saw that count, I'm like, okay, done. Like I knew that was going in. I knew we're not coming back from this. And people are saying, I had my friend text me saying, it's Juve, you still got about 30, 45 minutes. No, I'm sorry. I don't care. Even if we somehow managed to score in that 30 minutes, that second goal to tie it would have been, like extremely down to the wire. And even then, I wouldn't even be happy with a tie. I would not have been happy with a tie. I don't care.
Yeah. Jordan Simpson joining us. What's up, buddy? Thanks for joining us. Eric coming in saying the system has way too many moving parts being played by players who are less at performing at those moving parts. Yeah.
Eric,
there you go. Really, Antonio coming in. Hey guys, sorry I'm just getting here, but that's me. Just stopped vomiting over that shit show last night. Was it a bad dream? I wish, buddy.
Yeah,
I really, really wish. George Zamek coming in. Barella exposed what Juventus lacked in that midfield. Ran the show. Hate to say it, hurts really, but Bastoni and Merda, the two players involved, are quality. Yeah, I mean, Bastoni, I'm kind of like, but Barella's and it pains me because I wanted Juve to get him so bad when we had the opportunity. There's a lot of podcasts with that on record too. If people want to question that, but I was all about Barella for a while. But it is what it is. They really, really expose us. Again, it's the lack of adjustments, lack of a plan B, so to speak, or different approach where you could still play this system but make it work given what the opponent gives you. This is the part that's frustrating. Not every game is the exact same. You can't play every team the same. You have to be able to recognize how and where to attack certain opponents, and we don't have that. It's like we don't have that right now. Whether that's a Pirlo thing because he's new, of course, it's going to take time to adjust, but fuck, man, we've seen this exact thing happen so many times this year, and it's like we did the exact same thing each time in terms of lack of reaction. And that's the part that's just fucking makes me furious, man, to be honest.
Do I even dare mention how like this is similar to Sarri last year, but what you're talking about is Allegri before that? type of
Oh
thing.
man, I don't know if I'm ready to start talking about
We're not
it.
going to get into it, but like
Everybody's again. You see all the tweets and everything coming out
oh
about
yeah,
Allegri,
yeah. You know
and
what? It's they always forget how like pitiful we were on the last year with him. But let's not get into it.
yeah, that's the thing. I mean, it's time to start focusing on what we have now
Next
and the
year,
guys
yeah,
there and
exactly.
whatnot. But you are right. It does give you those feelings.
Yes, yes. And on the last comment, and bring up what you just said, yes, Barella ran our midfield. Yes, Bastoni. Okay, granted, he's decent, but he didn't run the show at all. He had 2, 3 guys next to him that did nothing all game because they weren't challenged at all. My problem lies with the fact that if you look at this Inter lineup as opposed to last year, you got what additions do you have? You have Hakimi and you have Vidal in the mid. Besides that, it's the same more or less team as last year. So Barella, no matter where he plays on this field, we played him already. Yes, he's a great player, but we've shut him down before. Why can't we shut him down again? We played Barcelona with Messi in the team. I'm not saying we shut him down, but he was rendered ineffective for a good amount of the game. Why can't we do that again? That people give me this argument that, yes, okay, I'm not going to say Barella didn't have a great game. He outclassed us. But for our team, our staff, for them not to notice that Barella is a star in this team and not find a way to pocket him and at least work against Inter's system, that's what bothers me. It's the fact that we just went into it saying, okay, play our game and we'll be fine. No, like, yeah, you want to play our game so we can attack that way. But when they have the ball, how do you play our game? We have to defend against their system.
Yeah.
So for me, that was the frustration, is that, like Eric said, our left side, there was no system implemented. We got, like, we saw it from a week before. Frabotta and Ramsey were going to get killed. So for me, it's the fact that we've played this team before. They haven't really improved much. It's the same team. Maybe Hakimi, like, sure, great player. Bastoni too. He wasn't there last year, I think, in a starting lineup, but not to the point where it's detrimental. If you look at our team compared to last year's starting 11, that's where you can make the argument that we're not the same. But them, it's the same freaking thing in my mind. Nothing much has changed. So the fact that we're unable to adjust, as you mentioned, was absolutely frustrating.
Yeah, it's just I don't understand the. Well, I mean, we'll get into it after here. We'll just wrap up the last bit of highlights here, but we're gonna get into a discussion basically on why so drastic change week to week, match to match. Like we'll get into that because everybody's got their own opinions on that, but it's good discussion there. 55th minute, Frabotta's done. He's got a knock. He's getting out, and then we have basically Bernardeschi, Kulishevsky, and McKennie all coming in. Ramsey off, Rabiot off, Frabotta off. Are we able to spark anything? I mean, we've got a little over a half hour there. See what we can do. 61st minute, McKennie gets to a header, unfortunately too close to Handanovic. And then Morata starts losing his cool. He gets a yellow, and you're thinking, man, just calm down. Like, we can't lose a guy now too, right? But he was out of it this match. Morata was out of it. And I mean, I do sympathize for the forwards, Ronaldo and Morata, because our midfielders, Bentancur, Rabiot too, just could not get them the ball. It needed to be so much better out of there. Again, we talked about tempo, ball movement, really everything. You could pick apart everything. Our defending, our positioning when we didn't have the ball, our play while Merda had possession, literally, was awful. And we got into so many scenarios where our players were chasing the ball rather than just staying to their goddamn responsibilities, their duties, their men. We were ball watching, ball chasing. And then in those 50-50s where the Derby d'Italia needs to come through and you need to have that fight, that grit, we didn't. And I saw so many soft little challenges. And then, he got by me. I'm going to rip the guy down. If you got to take the yellow, take the yellow. We knew we had guys that were threatening to miss the Supercopa, but I don't give a shit. Like, this is the Derby d'Italia. It's a huge, huge match for the Scudetto race. Take your guy down. Like, take a professional foul if you have to, at the very least. But fight.
And any other game, we could be playing Spezia. We could be playing freaking Benevento. Rabiot and Bentancur will take that foul 9 out of 10 times.
Oh yeah.
This game though, guys running right past you. Oh, I'm gonna shove him a bit. Keep going.
If you would have told me before this match, with Bentancur's record, he was not going to pick up a yellow, I would have said you're on glue. He's going to pick up a yellow. Rabiot will pick up a yellow, and neither one of them did, and they were never really in a position to even do so. It was bad, man. On the 50. Dan Lucci coming in. We allowed way too much time and space for their backline and midfield to play the ball out. Not nearly enough urgency in our pressing. Absolutely, but the press was also so uncoordinated and out of sync. You could see the forwards yelling at mids and the mids yelling at Frabota, and it was a gong show, man. An absolute gong show. But we got really nothing else for highlights. 70th minute, and Lautaro goes right at Chiello. He just misses wide. 86th minute, Chiesa, finally at 86th minute, we get a good opportunity to score. Chiesa gets stopped by Handanovic.
Oh, I was so mad by that because, like, again, you can always make this argument that every team against Juventus somehow steps up, becomes the best team in the world. Handanovic, I've been watching Merda play because I've been hoping they drop points recently. For some reason, I bother myself and watch their games. Handanovic has been absolutely on a downward spiral for weeks now. Like, 2 weeks ago would not have saved it. If that was Spezia or Benevento or Udinese, he would not have saved that.
I think Handanovic is such a poor goalkeeper.
He's poor, exactly. Now, especially with his age, it's showing. So for the fact that he saved that at a reaction with his hand out of nowhere, I'm like, you're kidding me. Like, nothing's going our way today. Forget it. I turned off the TV. Obviously, I turned it back on, but like just out of anger, I turned it off.
It was like a double kicker. It's like the fact that he makes that save hurts. The fact that it's our first really true opportunity really fucking hurts.
And it's at 86.
So it's like, wow, we're actually going to fucking have a clean sheet against the 90th minute. Hakimi goes off, almost fucking scores, goes high and wide. But that's it. That's match over. This was fucking disgusting. And then, you've got a picture that, honestly, I'd be lying if I said it didn't piss me off. It was Vidal hugging Pirlo, and Pirlo with a smile, and this fires up fans. But then I watched a video that showed the whole thing, and the picture didn't do justice to Pirlo because he was actually upset and not really wanting to deal with Vidal. Yeah. But Vidal kept pressing, and then Pirlo kind of smiled. That picture captured it like he was really smiling. Like, it was like, that picture pisses me off. But when you watch the video, it gives good context, and Pirlo was always walking away from him and just like, kind of, get out of here, man, get out of here. You pissed me off today and stuff like that. So I do kind of somewhat take back those statements about being pissed off about it. But this one, fuck, man, where from here. Antonio's coming in with a comment here. Always pisses me off when the players take to Instagram with their post-match motivational excuses. Silence and head down. This was more than unacceptable last night. Yeah, sometimes saying nothing will go a bit further with the fans. And to be honest, the last thing I fucking need is Bonucci saying the same thing over and over, or even Pirlo for that matter in his press conference about we weren't there from the outset. That fucking pisses me off to hear this repeatedly. And we've already had 2 discussions where the leaders of this team spoke to the players and whatnot. If you can't pick yourself up and be in the right frame of mind to play in the Derby d'Italia, move aside and let somebody who's willing step up and fucking play. I don't need to hear the same thing over and over. And then the question becomes why. Attitude or tactics. Everybody was kind of flipped on this one. We're going to go a step further in this one when we talk about attitude or tactics. It's the lack of consistency. Okay. And why? Well, let's look at this. If we're being honest with ourselves and our club and who we have and whatnot, the lack of consistency makes complete fucking sense because we have a lot of players who are streaky and inconsistent. A lot of them. Bentancur's tenure so far with Juve can be explained as inconsistent. Waiting for a breakout, always waiting for a breakout, seeing a little bit of progress, and then seeing regression. That's Bentancur. Is he still super young? Absolutely. But it's fair to say he's inconsistent. Kulishevsky has no home. He has no position. When he enters this match, became a fucking shit show because now all of a sudden he's out at right wing back. You move Chiesa over to left wing back. Kulishevsky looks awful in that position. Flat out. Absolutely awful in this position. Do I think it would have changed anything? No. Like I said, we had a little over a half hour when those guys entered the match, but it's too little, too late. And honestly, that the more game we got later in that match was because Merda pretty much was comfortable, and they stepped off, allowed us to play a bit more.
Yeah.
Let's be serious.
Yeah, 100%.
Going back to the players, Morata hit the ground running, got a knock coming back into the play, into fold now, but he had a few matches where he was dipping there, right? Ronaldo has not been himself. If we're being honest, it's about 3 matches now. He has not been himself. He hasn't been awful in those previous 2 matches.
Yeah.
But he's not himself. And I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, no. I think it's fair enough to say that he hasn't been 110% Ronaldo. Very much like Dybala when he started, getting his form was 100% Dybala. But I think what people, myself included, until you watch the game again, you don't realize the Ronaldo effect, and this goes into so many different, factors. Just because he's not receiving the ball, or doing step overs, or letting fly a good kick on net or a header, does not mean he's not sucking in 2 players in the defense. Because don't forget, he is Ronaldo. He has that effect. So I've seen it time and time where, yeah, sure, he's not clicking to the point where he's missing these sitters that he should be burying, but also to the point where just because you don't see him on the ball does not mean he's not doing something, because he is still I'm gonna say he's got an effect on the game just in being on the pitch, because like I said, he'll pull those 2 defenders, he'll pull 1 or 2 just by his body movement. So he hasn't been himself. I will not say otherwise, but I'm not going to say he's been essential. I think there is points where you could tell that he has made a difference just by being there. But yes, to your point, 100%, he has not, especially yesterday. Like, there was a header right after, like, we started the first half. I'm like, why didn't you not throw your body at that? That's unlike you 100%.
Yeah, he was. That was probably the worst Ronaldo I've seen. Probably yesterday's Ronaldo. A lot of dispossessions, easily bad passing. It was just it was bad. But he wasn't the only one. Going back to the consistency thing, Rabiot. I mean, he went on fire. He went on a tear where he was solid, absolute solid, and then he dropped off again. And now he's at the same point where a lot of Juventini are saying get rid of him. And it's almost like he fooled us for 2 months, and now he's kind of going back into this one where it's like, what does he do? It's frustrating. Ramsey's inconsistent. You'll get a great showing from Ramsey, and then you'll get some mediocre showings with good work without the ball or stuff that he makes you think like, man, you really got to use him, but his execution is not where it needs to be. He's rather inconsistent, man.
Ramsey, for me, and I've voiced it many times, just throwing tweets out all the time. For me, I think he's disabled by the system. But again, obviously, I'm not going to start blaming the system for everything. He is an athlete. He could take some responsibility. And like you said, execution-wise, he is far from where he should be. I think, he's gotten many chances on net that he should have buried. I think there's many passes that he should have made that, weren't made well. But I think if you put him, much like Eriksen at Merda, if you put him in a good spot, in good form, with players around him that are, decent, I think he's still one of the most intelligent players we have. He's not supposed to be in that role. I don't see him there. And yes, okay, he didn't have a great showing yesterday, but I think that's just because you expect a guy like him to defend against a guy like Hakimi. I'm sorry. If you think that, you're watching the wrong sport. It's clear because that's not what he's there for. It's like putting Dybala against Hakimi. He's not a defensive player. You're not going to get that from him. So obviously, I'm not going to say Aaron Ramsey is our best player, but I think tactically and intelligence-wise of our midfield, he is easily. I'd take him over Rabiot and Bentancur any day, just because he sees things they don't. Obviously, his fitness and his positioning are two things we can discuss all day. But
yeah, well, we're going to get into the midfield players, and I mean, there's already comments coming in. George Zamet's writing in that just this was a Fiorentina repeat. Fiorentina, there could have been the excuse of the Napoli verdict, but the league isn't lost on matches as such. It's lost with draws at Crotone, Benevento, and Verona. Yeah, in which a couple of those matches we saw the same thing with the 5-man wall and us not willing to break through. So, like, that's the frustrating part about this match. Antonio coming in with time for a European coach for me and someone willing to bench big players who are clearly disinterested. Ronaldo and Bonucci to name, but it's a good thing you are not on social media, my friend. You would have the CR fanboys. Don't shoot the messenger, by the way. I'm just the messenger out here. But Dan's coming in saying, sorry, Luca. I know you like Ramsey, but he needs to go, especially if we can bring in DePaul instead. The problem is I don't see us getting rid of him. Who's going to pay that wage, man? It's a high wage.
Yeah, no, it's the wage. You're right.
You know, again, with the consistency thing, Antonio brought up Bonucci, you know, a guy that wears the armband the majority of the time right now for us. Inconsistency. So look at how many players we've named. Even when you get Alexandro back, Alexandro is night and day from match to match. So this lack of consistency, we've just named a lot of players that lack consistency. Not only that, you have Pirlo's system.
Yeah,
that doesn't have an adjustment phase to it, in which you can react to what your opponent gives to you. And that is just creating this nightmare for us. So while we want to get into attitude, tactics, the attitude was not there for the Derby d'Italia, 100%. The tactics Pirlo got absolutely outclassed by Conte. Fucking disgusting to say that, but he did.
Yep.
He did, 100%. And then the guys, man, they just were not up to figuring anything out on the pitch. And I've been saying this for a while. We don't have a general in the midfield. We don't have that guy that commands the others, that can pick stuff up, that can see it from the pitch, that can determine, hey, we need to do this. We just have guys that are followers. They will just be like, oh, no, this is what we're directed to do. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it. But you don't have a game breaker in there that can be like, no, you know what? This is where we're going to expose them. We can do this, make any kind of – we don't have that. So when we talk about the midfield, and you want to talk about Ramsey too and that and how he played, I honestly – I'm kind of pissed that we haven't seen it to this point. Kulusevski needs to be the alternative to Aaron Ramsey and play out of that position, because he's not a wingback. He can play as a forward, but you're always going to have Morata, Ronaldo, and I'd even put Dybala ahead of him when Dybala's in form. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Kulusevski needs to be attempted out of that position. What you could do with Kulusevski is also, like I said, use him more out of a center role, so you still have a 3-man midfield, but he attacks. He becomes that attacking midfield out of the center. I think Kulusevski needs to be attempted in that position. Ramsey, while he does do a lot of things well, like the ability to create space, how to attack space. He had a couple great runs where Ronaldo didn't reward him. In this match against Merda, he actually slipped in behind that defense and for the life of me, I have no fucking idea why Ronaldo did not slip that ball to him. It was an easy fucking pass to make.
Because it's Ronaldo.
He didn't make that pass, and I was furious. Because it can't be like that. You can't. It just when I see things like that, and then I look over if the camera goes to Pirlo and he's calm, that's like a moment for me. Jacket's getting ripped off. I'm fucking losing my mind, and I know you can't go at Ronaldo like that or not, but you have to. If we're all of a sudden we're picking and choosing who we get furious at, who's not seeing the play for what we need to do, what's the point of having Ramsey make that run if you're not going to fucking reward him? What happened in that sequence? I'll tell you what happened in that sequence. We lose the ball easily because Ronaldo made the shit pass, and they're right back down our throats because now we have one of our midfielders in behind the defense not being rewarded, and we're caught the other way. And then Frabotta takes all the heat that he can't defend Barella and fucking Hakimi when we had a play to go there. So it's shit like that just can't fly. So I hope when they look back at the tape, they see all these things and realize like the team play's got to be way better. We had very minimal opportunities to make passes like that and whatnot, but when you have them, have to take them. Have to take them. So this midfield, I see 2 units. I got into this discussion. We talked a bit about it on the pre-match. 2 units for me because we have guys that are too similar. And for me...
Al, I'm going to disturb you just for a second. I got my dog going crazy. I'm going to let you go off and back in a second. I apologize.
Sounds good.
Go.
Lucas got to deal with his dog. I got everybody on the live here. So here's the thing. I see 2 units, okay? I see 2 units when it comes to the midfield. And I laid it out here, but for me, if you're gonna mix them up, Artur and Bentancur, one or the other. And honestly, I've flipped through this one all season so far on which guy needs to take the helm there. And I know there's been a lot of shouts for Artur, and we need Artur. I'm still left wanting a lot out of Artur. So I don't know, it's frustrating. But for me, there's 2 units. There's Ramsey, Artur, McKennie, and then there's Kulusevski being on an alternative to Ramsey, who could potentially be the guy rather than Ramsey. Artur and Bentancur, you mix them up, and then McKennie and Rabiot, you mix them up. That creates 2 units. When you start mixing from one side to the other, you become unbalanced in our midfield. So yeah, that's just how I see it. And more often than not, we have guys playing together that are very, very similar, and it's frustrating, and it just creates a nightmare. But I'd love to hear from everybody listening here what your thoughts are on the midfield. And how we play him. I know Eric's got a comment coming in here about Kulusevski. Kulusevski should be the alternative as long as he stays at the 10. I don't like Kulu moving from mid to wing to mid. Yeah, this is one of those things why I'm not sure. I think, again, Pirlo seems to be set in this play with in the system with this hybrid setup where there's these moving pieces we talked about, and I don't know if it'll ever be so simple and straightforward, but sometimes you got to think like that would be the easiest way. Slap him in that 10 role. He can still help on the defensive end with things like that, but if you're holding back Bentancur anyways, especially against Merda in this one, he should have been held back and slipped to the left side. Rabiot should have been the other pivot, and we go from there. Luca, just talking on Eric's comment here about Kulusevski should be the alternative as long as he stays at the 10. And he doesn't like Kulu moving from mid to wing to mid. And I was just reiterating how I feel two pivots with a 10, but can still help defensively. So you're still creating a 3-man midfield essentially, but it's just a lot easier rather than pulling from one wing, offsetting and creating this unbalance. Before you went and just left for a couple of minutes here, I was talking about my two midfield setups because I see guys with similarities. I basically see Ramsey and Kulusevski being counterparts. I see Artur and Bentancur being counterparts, and then McKennie and Rabiot. So I would have two units of midfields, but I don't think mix matching the two. So, for instance, if you had Artur out there, I don't want Bentancur out there as well. If you had McKennie out there, no sense in having Rabiot out there as well. If you had Ramsey, Kulusevski would be the counter. I actually think Kulusevski could be a guy that overtakes Ramsey personally out of that role. But any thoughts on that before we get on to the next topic here?
Personally, I agree 100% with what you're saying in terms of characteristics of the players. We've said it time and time again, like if you have this many midfielders, it should be a quick, like, plug in, plug out. If, like you said, if Artur is hurt or he can't play, you put in Bentancur right away. It should be easy. That said, obviously, if you talk about like Rabiot compared to McKennie, it's night and day. Well, now, obviously, when they're both in form, I see what you're saying. It would be the same thing. And same thing goes for Kulu and Ramsey. Everyone in form, it makes sense. Right now, it's night and day who I would pick. But yes, 100% agree with what you're saying. And obviously, it's things we see, but that bothers me that how our staff and how our coach doesn't see these things. But obviously, there's reasons to why they're making these decisions. It boggles my mind why it's not being picked up earlier.
Yeah. It's boggles the mind.
As to what before we move on, as to what Eric said for the Kulu and the 10 role, we haven't seen it properly yet, right? And the problem is, and most of us are trying to figure out what does where does Kulu fit well in this system. I think, and how we play, and in the way that we go forward, it's hard, he would be best in that 10 role if he doesn't go to the wing. But because we have this role in this system that turns into a wing when we defend, which Eric absolutely despises, that's where it doesn't suit him, I think, and neither does it suit Ramsey, because technically, if you want a midfielder that could attack, obviously his characteristics won't be great in the defensive zone. And I think, believe it or not, most people are might not agree with me here. I think McKennie plays that role probably the best because he offers a good balance between the two. I think between mid defending and mid offense attacking is our best balance. So for me, I think he's played it probably the best this year when we had 3 actual mids in there. But as we saw yesterday, he wasn't in the best of form. So I apologize. We can go on to the next topic now.
Oh no, it's all good. You don't have to apologize. It's what it's all about. Chiellini saying the DNA is not easy to maintain. Cycles end. This comment really had the wheels moving, man, in my head there, and just thinking, like, how does one maintain the DNA of Juve? It's up to a lot of things. It's up to management in order to hold the standard. They need to hold the standard for the club as well. Have they maintained the DNA and the standard in terms of squad building? I don't think they necessarily have, and I don't think you could say that. And actually, Antonio, the perfect timing for this, but amazing to think how Pirlo played with us a few years ago, and none of our midfielders would have played in that side. We have not progressed at all. That's interesting.
I disagree. I think McKennie would be good in that role, in that midfield back then. He's, to me, still the best.
But would McKennie have been chosen over Vidal, because Vidal played that role and did it quite well and scored more?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I think if you're looking at that squad from back then, I think McKennie is our Vidal, and I've thought it in the past before. He fits that system and that role the best today in the modern role, and honestly, right now, better than Vidal, because Vidal is an old fart.
But clearly, the other thing is too, going to the standard, talking about the DNA and whatnot.
Yeah.
This was a pick apparently Pirlo made.
And
a €2 million loan.
And you could
for
see
McKennie.
it. You could see it. It's something that he actually wanted and got, because when he does play, you see that his role is specific. It's not like anybody else, and he is consistent in what he does.
Except for when Pirlo has used him out wide, which becomes a disaster.
Which was a plug-in because we were missing players. But that was just a bad decision.
So again, now going to this DNA thing. The management, have they held their end of it? I would have to lean more towards no. They haven't done an absolute nightmare. But it could have been better. They ignored some weaknesses for quite some time. We still have some weaknesses. We talk year in, year out about this team going into seasons with holes at certain positions. I say it all the time. A team that takes this much amount of money out of the Champions League should never go into a season with holes at any position, in my opinion. So it's frustrating. So I could say management needs to kind of take a bit of a hit there. In terms of DNA and players and whatnot, I feel a big part of it is we're allowing too much to slide in terms of performances, and whether that's because we're handcuffed or whatnot. But if a guy isn't up to standard, I don't give a shit about the history he has for the club. I don't care about the name on the back of the kit. It needs to be dealt with. I don't care about if he wears the armband. If you're not up to snuff, you get the fuck on, you move aside, and we get the next man up. Nobody can tell me that Demirel would not have fought in this match.
I'm so happy you're at the same page as me, because that's exactly what I'm thinking right now. If you go back 2007, what was it, 2017, right before Bonucci left, when we benched him, where he got sit in the bleachers next to Nedved, because I don't remember if it was a mental issue or the way he was acting or personality. I'm not sure why he was, why he sat out or what. I forgot the reasoning, but it's exactly what you're saying. It's like if a guy like Bonucci, I don't care what history he has with us, if he's not performing, same goes. Obviously Ronaldo is a different argument, because it's a 31 mil a year. It's a different argument completely. But my point is, if you're not exuding, this DNA every minute of the game, bench. I don't care. I'll put on Portanova. I'll put on Raffia or whatever. These guys, these youth. Obviously, the game was very skeptical against in the Coppa Italia. Obviously, we saw all these young guys, and it was a bit up in the air. And we could talk about that all we want in terms of performance. But one thing I could say is that at least these guys went in with something to prove. They fought, and
yeah.
You look at guys like Bonucci, like, okay.
And here's the thing. My starting lineup, I had Bonucci in there. And so I'm not saying we bench Bonucci and play Demirel, but I'm saying when shit's going sideways in this match, why not bring Demirel out there to pick up the fight? Because he's got the fight.
He's got the fight.
Get Frabotta out of there at halftime.
Mm-hmm.
Move Demirel to that side. Slide Danilo over. There was actually Francisco, who was on live with us earlier. I'm not sure if he's still there, but he actually said that at the starting lineups in the pre-match live yesterday. He goes, move Danilo to that left side, get Frabotta out of there, and put Demirel on the right.
That was a good call.
That's a great shout. And I thought about it at halftime, and I'm like, for fuck's sakes, I hope he does that, because Demirel will at least have that fight and pick that up. But for me, it's inexcusable. So when we talk about DNA, Juve's DNA has always been to fight, not been pushed over, not get bullied. And when, again, we bring up these sequences of plays where you have Barella busting down the side and Rabiot comes in there and gives them one of these little arm pushes like this little chicken wing thing. And I'm like, what the fuck is that? Grab them if you can't catch them and rip them down and say, fuck that, you're not getting by me. You got to fight. It's got to be better. It's pathetic. It's actually embarrassing from a fan standpoint at how soft we were in this.
Everybody right now is flacking and hitting on Demirel hard because he's in terms of performance, not standing up to what he should be. And they're all saying he's just a pit bull. That's all he does. He's rough, and people, only liked him because he exuded that, that grinta that we used to have. But you know what? At least I could say that that's the most Juventus thing about him, and that's more than any other player right now. I don't care if, his passing isn't like close to Bonucci's. At least I could say that he exudes what I come to know about Juventus. Like, it's one thing we perform, but it's another that we have that will to fight. Bonucci got something in his eye 2 seconds in, and he's about to come off because of it. If that was Demirel, he would have shrugged it off and kept fighting. And you know what? If you can't tell the difference between what is Juventus, on our DNA and how we fight compared to what isn't, I obviously you don't know what the club is about. And
yeah, Demirel probably rips out the eyeball and says, "Fuck it, God gave me 2."
Exactly. Like, obviously, I'm not going to start saying, I've been in that situation where, when you get something in your eye, it's not obviously, it's not the best situation. But I think giving Demirel that shout in the sense of like he would have eaten Lautaro alive. I think maybe tactically he might have been faster and he might have been able to spin him, but I have more faith. I would have had more faith in Demirel taking up that defensive line, and like you said, slide Danilo on that left. That was a great shout, and I think
that could have definitely helped out the sides there.
Yeah.
And not only that, because I don't think Frabota's not at that moment in time with this club where he's going to start making these calls with these guys, right? Whereas Danilo would have no problem calling shout outs to the midfield about what's happening on that left side, right? So it's just, it is what it is. Antonio comes in with, it amazes me how halfway through a season and our coach still can't address the usual mistakes we keep making. And our captain comes with cycles ending quotes. I'm so disappointed. Yeah, we talked about this quote too, and seeing Chiellini say that and whatnot, and hearing him say that, and it hurts. I mean, nothing lasts forever. I think the best way to put it is how Raphael did on the comments to my post on Twitter when he said, I can deal with not winning. It happens. What I can't put up with is not fighting and not having a sense of direction. So, and that's the best way you can really put it is, where is the direction we are heading? Because the transfers need to be made. And again, we've got Pirlo out statements, and to me, that is wrong as well. I think if we start creating this carousel, you're going to be back to square one, year in, year out. You have to bite the bullet. If we look overall in terms of work and Pirlo so far, again, when it's good, it's good. I think he's just got to tweak. He's just got to tweak and have an alternative. He has to have an adjustment. Right now, he's committed to this one, but there's nothing to grow from there. There's not that extension to his setup right now. That's what he needs to work on now. But yeah, you're playing a dangerous game if we want to get into this coaching carousel. So I'm not for a Pirlo out personally. Luca, your thoughts on that as we move on to probably the final topic here?
I'm not sure who I had the discussion with on Twitter. At this point, there's discussions everywhere. I forget, but I'm very much opposed to getting rid of him that quickly. Like when it was Sadi, I think most of us were still shocked that it happened because we did still get the title. I'm not saying we're shocked because because he wasn't a good fit. Because if it was up to me, I'd say he wasn't a good fit, and we saw that. It was just shocking because he actually won something, and they got rid of him. Now, at least with Pirlo, yeah, okay, we might not win anything at all, but I still don't think we should get rid of him, because if anybody embodies, I'm saying right now, if you look at the market of coaches and you're looking at what the future has in store for us, I think Pirlo, even though he is still new, I think I'd bite the bullet now. Like, he is, for me, someone who has potential, because obviously he's not shown that he's a complete waste. He's shown moments of the actual success. And obviously we are in if you want to call it a refresh cycle, I'd rather bite the bullet, get him the players he needs, and see better next year rather than just, find somebody new and restart again. Because we're going to be in the same boat come next year where, we're getting players. We don't know that if the coach wants them or not. And, there's a mismatch between what management wants and what the coach wants. At least in this point, if we keep him, we can get him one or two players that he wants. And, he can continue his cycle of getting his mentality and his style of play in. Like you said, yes, he's got to work on making that adjustment. And I think with time, it'll come. But at least give him the time. I think with Sadi, his time was up, but he was also an aging mentality. I think he wasn't able to implement it at all. At least with Pirlo, we could see some of it more. And he's also young, right? It's not like there's no odds of him ending up in the ER tomorrow because he chain smoked, 2 packs of cigarettes in a day. So at least with Pirlo, there's longevity. With Sadi, it was like, we don't know what's going to happen within the next week or two for his actual health. But, I think give the guy a chance. Hopefully we win something in terms of silverware this year. And it gives us more reason to believe in him.
Yeah. Yeah. Iskander, thanks for joining us, man. The fighting spirit is fading from the squad. We're too polite. There's no robust from the midfield. We need a fighter in the midfield who will kick anybody's arse. You know what? The fighting spirit is fading. We talk about this DNA and stuff. A great insight from Luca too in terms of Sarri and Pirlo and whatnot. But Sarri didn't have the players on his side. He was never going to last. Pirlo has that. But again, I need that separation of friend to coach from Pirlo. I need him to take that next step and start being less of their friend and more of the manager, and starting to see what guys are actually hurting you and where they're hurting you, make those adjustments. No different than what Antonio was saying earlier about Pirlo making the same mistakes halfway through a season. He needs to pick up on that. And we can't afford to have that happen. But George coming in with Pirlo out midseason is premature. It's a learning curve. The margin to drop points is smaller, but there are 19 games to play still. Let's talk about the table in a month's time. Man, spoken like a Juve rep to a T there, George. We'd be lying though if we said they weren't keeping an eye on the table. You have to by all means. So when they say that, it's just same message, keep calm, whatnot. But honestly, Scudetto race right now feels over for a lot of Juventini. For me, it's not over. We left ourselves so much work to do with those draws earlier on in the season, just picking up way too many draws. Is there progression from that point to now? I believe there is. And I believe if we were in that position now, which could be the difference of a preseason and not having a preseason. But I think if we were where we're at right now with this club and we were playing those matches that we were drawing earlier, I don't think we end up with draws in those. I do see a bit of growth there. There's still a lot of work to do. But Scudetto race, is it over for you, Luca?
Absolutely not. Obviously, like you said, there is a lot more work to do. You went from giving yourself like a couple of weeks of headache to giving yourself a couple of months of headaches. But we are Juventus. It's. I don't think I have to say it more than once. We're not a team that just backs off just because things get tough. That being said, is it harder to do what we all expect them to do? Definitely. This is not a shot in the foot. This is a shot in the thigh, and it's going to hurt a lot more. But I think, I hate to say it, but knowing the teams around us, teams like Merda, teams like Roma right now, who are just like bleeding points randomly when they're not playing big teams, or even when they are playing big teams, I have hope that at least we can finish in the top 4. That to me is, I'm pretty hopeful of that. Finishing top seed right now, seeing the way Milan is playing and the players they're bringing in this January, it is going to be tough. It is going to be very, very tough. but I don't think the race is over. Obviously, it's City A. Let's not forget how tight the season has been. Last season, Sadi won in what? He won in with a month or 3 weeks left, and even then, Inter the last 5 games, when we won, we just let everything go, and Inter just freaking steamrolled everybody, and we lost 4 games in a row, I think. But that's as soon as we won. But the race wasn't won until a couple weeks till the end. So I think this year, more than a lot of other years, we just have to keep fighting. And just like we said before, I'd rather lose knowing that we fought as opposed to losing knowing we just give up. If you want to admit it's a transition year and you want to really go out there and try something new, fine by me, but at least try. That's the minimal. To see these guys out there giving zero shits, I'm not saying they don't care. Obviously they do care. You could see it in some of them and their anger and frustration, but give us something back. Give something back to the fact that this is Juventus. This is not any other team. I'm not even going to start naming other teams because it's not even worth it. We are not any other team. So show us the fight, show us the will, show us, the need to push on, and I will be content.
Yeah, absolutely. And wow, John coming in here with "I want to die." Please don't, John. Please don't.
No, we need everybody.
We got another comment here from Vishwajit here. You can't always say that he is just starting. But when you are managing a team like Juventus, we expect some silverware because it's just frustrating to see them playing this way. So I think, honestly, you can say he's starting because he is starting his career as a manager. He's put into a hotbed. If we thought Pirlo was going to come in and take us to a treble, that's completely unrealistic. And to say, hey, you're going to come in and coach us to a treble because we are Juventus and we win silverware here, that's fine. You could say that to everybody. I could go pick up Joe Blow off the street and be like, hey, I'm going to put you coach in Juventus. You're going to take us to a treble because we have to win silverware here. It doesn't work like that. Again, there's been many great Juventus sides previous to this one that have not won silverware. We are in an incredible run right now. What we're doing is, it's been insane. Mm-hmm. It may never happen again. Mm-hmm. We have to come to terms with that. It's not going to last forever. Juventus isn't going to go from now until the end of time not giving up the Scudetto. It will come to an end. Yeah. Again, what we need is to not lose ourselves in that. We need to continue to be the team that fights to the end. We have to have the heart. It's not about, and I know everybody sticks to this motto, the Juve motto, winning isn't important. It's the only thing that matters, right? And I get it. But at the same time, in a realistic sense, you can't win all the time. If we held our motto true to Champions League, what would that mean to us? Let's be honest here. A motto is a motto. It's something to live by. It's something you try to strive for, right?
Exactly.
But it's not the be-all, end-all. We have to be serious about this. So if you hold that motto true to Champions League, come on. It's not worth the ink it's written on. So let's be serious here. It's about not losing ourselves. The comment from Chiellini stands out to me about the fear that they are losing the DNA. When you start hearing about Pirlo wanting to extend Chiellini to keep him in the locker room, that scares the shit out of me. I love Chiellini, but his time is done. Use the roster spot for somebody stronger that can last the season for us. The DNA, if you want to keep the DNA, you want him bad for that, give him a job. Give him a job amongst the staff that he can be around there and be a part of it. Same with Gigi when he's done. Make him a part of the staff. But to be honest, for me, the biggest thing out of this one is how we went down, not the fact that we went down. It drives me absolutely mad that we went down, but it's how. Completely too soft and not Juventus-like. And we haven't been Juventus for quite some time. If we're being honest, we haven't been that team that will fight till the end. And maybe you could tie that to Allegri's final season, because even though we struggled and we were bad and I called for him to be changed, that was the last time I felt like we would fight. And probably because we had character guys. But going back to management and stuff, we talked about Bonucci leaving, coming back. I would have kept Benatia at that time because Benatia was playing. We almost didn't skip a beat at the back with Benatia, and he had the fight for the stripes, and he had the heart. It's a dangerous precedence when you start playing this game where guys don't get rewarded that deserve to be. So your DNA, you could talk about all this, what you want to do and whatnot, but you're playing a dangerous, dangerous game when guys that need to be out there don't get rewarded and whatnot. And guys are allowed to drop the standard and the level of what Juventus should be. And we have, unfortunately, a couple guys, one that's obvious to all, that are doing that right now that is very, very dangerous, in my personal opinion. Luca, where do you want to finish off on that comment about Pirlo starting and expecting the silverware and stuff as we wrap up here?
Well, I think I had this this conversation with Graham actually yesterday on Twitter, that myself being a relatively young fan, I've never seen a year where Juventus hasn't won something. So for me, the idea of them not winning anything definitely boggles my mind. And I've slept on the idea that maybe there's going to be a year where we don't win, and when that year comes, I'll be in shock. But as an athlete, as I told him, as someone who's been through competitive situations, losing is a part of life. There's no team in history that's won everything and continuously won it. It's not human. It's not in our nature to do so. And if it is, something doesn't make sense. For me, it's again, like I understand that there's an expectation now because we've done something so incredible for 9 years. But I'm totally understanding of not bringing it in for a 10th. It would hurt me. I'm not going to go out there and gloat saying, "Oh, we didn't win this." No, of course not. I'm not like that. And I don't think anybody else is like that either. I think we're all going to be pissed about it. But I think the people, who are realistic in the sense of this is a sport. This is not science. This is not a given. Just because our motto is that doesn't mean it's going to happen. We, like you said, it's something we strive for. Does it mean it's going to happen? It doesn't have to. I think if anything, in the last 2-3 years, especially like you said, since Allegri left, that idea that we might not win this year has come up more and more, and I think we've been more and more expecting it. And the fact that it hasn't come has been shocking. I think last year, especially, and even I think that year where we were 15th place or something, and come December, 15th place. We're like 10th place in the winter break, and we came back up. I think it's been years where the idea has passed through our minds, and the fact that it hasn't, that we didn't fail, was even more impressive. But it's been sitting in the back of my head for a while now, and the idea of us not winning anything, especially the Scudetto. And personally, just as an overall realistic, fan of the sport, I think that's completely fine. I think it's maybe a wake up that we finally freaking need. People keep saying week in, week out, oh, maybe we'll wake up now. Maybe they'll wake up now. It's 4 weeks now, since the Torino derby. We've been saying it. Maybe they'll wake up now. We woke up for 3 games. And even out of those 3 games, 2 of them were like worthy of a shout, because one of them we were like, oh, we barely even got through. So on that comment, yes, Pirlo is new. Yes, there's a chance that he wins nothing. I'm okay with it. I will move on. I am a realistic fan. I am someone who believes that this is more than just science. This is, again, a sport. And I will support the club no matter what happens.
Yes, that's exactly it, right? And I mean, we get hung up on things, and I know that this Del Piero story came out just recently, where the story of them being in the locker room against Milan when Chiellini found out what Juventus was all about, because everybody was happy with this draw, and Del Piero was livid and kicking shit around, screaming, yelling, and then called the whole team in and says, "Don't be happy about this. we need to win at Juventus, right? And people just think like, okay, yeah, that's what we can't be happy with, ever losing or whatnot. It's not about being happy. Nobody's happy when you lose. Nobody's happy when you draw. Nobody would be happy that we go trophyless. But again, it's did that attitude match what we need out of the team? How did we go down? Did we fight? Did we give it our all? When you see performances like this and you can say that wasn't our all, that's where the problem lies. And that's where you need to get to the bottom of to figure it out. It's a tough one. Antonio coming in with league is not over because it's not a massive gap for me. League is not over because it's not a massive gap, but for me, yes, it's over. Our approach and body language is just not right. We lack consistency and show far too much complacency. Yeah, I mean, I can agree with your feelings and whatnot, but I can't say it's over just yet. I almost need that mathematical elimination to just put me out of my misery and end me, right? It's just the way I'm built. But Supercoppa versus Napoli. We're not going to dive into this too deep. The guys that were questionable, if they got yellows, would miss the game, didn't pick up yellows against Merda. So we have the guys available. We don't know if anybody's going to get cleared out of the COVID list or whatnot. But what do you think, just real quick touching on this, Luca, could this be a match that bonds the team together, get them ready for a momentum swinging run in the Serie A, or is this a one-off that won't really matter too much? Like, do you think there's anything to gain out of this? Like, just your quickly touch on the Supercoppa against Napoli.
Well, look, at the end of the day, it is still a cup. It is still silverware. It's something that's eluded us in the last, 2 or 3 years now. I think last year it was an awful showing, and I was embarrassed by it, to be honest with you. But just to answer your question quickly, I hope to God, that we swipe the floor, especially because it's Napoli. If it was like Roma or Milan, I'd be like, okay, it's just let's fight, let's hope. But it's Napoli. It's like they're up there with Merda with me right now. So if we can swipe the floor with them and get a cup, I hope to God it ties the team together and we just we go on a crazy run. Do I really think that's going to happen? Truthfully, no, I really don't think so. I think it's going to be a hard-fought match. I hope we end up on top, and I hope that they somewhat build it together, that we can, build some momentum. But I don't think it's going to be a turning point. If I'm wrong, I hope to God I'm wrong. But I don't think, especially since what we've seen so far, we said it after the derby at Torino. We said it. People are saying it after yesterday. Hopefully they wake up now. You're going to be saying this until March. You can't keep saying hopefully, hopefully, hopefully. At one point they have to do it. Right. So I can hope all I want. Truthfully, I don't think from what I've seen, they'll be able to just flip things over unless some miracle happens. But I hope for it, so we'll see.
Absolutely. And I mean, for me, this Supercoppa, we know about the appeal. Napoli went and won. They created this scenario for, in my opinion, takes Pirlo's job away from him. It should be very, very easily to motivate a team when you get this us against the world atmosphere, which is what Serie A has become. Everybody's trying to knock us off the perch. So the fact that we don't get this all from our players, this fight, this determination, is frustrating to see. I think there's a lot to gain out of this one. It's still a cup. If we win it, we've taken it from one of our rivals that we're battling with in the league, and I hope we can piece it together. But getting a cup might be big for a bunch of the youngsters that are on this team too. And just we need to reinstill this sense of belief, because it's almost like when we lose and we get these lost ones, we have to almost build up from square one almost. Because this one I see as actually being dangerous in terms of I see a team that's very fragile at the moment. So I think like this win could actually forge us together, maybe get us a little bit stronger and build that confidence up. After the one against Merda, after this loss, very, very tough to do. This could go either way, but it'll really be a sign at this club and how we can bounce back, because we know that's part of our DNA too.
Yep.
Juve historically has been a side that if they get beat, they come out hard and they make sure the next game that doesn't happen again. So this will tell us a lot about Pirlo and this club. So I'm actually I'm looking forward to this one. It will be a tough match, like you say, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, hopefully we get some of the key guys back. And this is one thing I want to say. Juventini, I haven't seen barely any make comments that would be made by any other club out there, and that's we had key guys missing because we did. We didn't have Delict. We didn't have Sandro. Would that have made a difference? Absolutely.
Absolutely.
But would we have won? You don't know that.
You don't know that,
But
exactly.
those are key guys for us, and we did not use that excuse. We talked about that standard and expecting the next man up approach. It needs to match, but it needs to match from our manager as well. So if you have guys that need to be better there, the adjustments, he needs to get better. Pirlo really, really took the lowest rating for me in the Merda match, to be honest. But we'll see what happens. Supercopa. Everybody that's tuned in and joined us live, thank you very, very much. Please, please like the video, subscribe, comment. It makes a big difference. Luca, thanks again. 8 a.m. your time when we started this, 5 a.m. mine. You Easterners, man, I get up at 5 like normally, but yes.
Yeah, you're just that's just you, man. That's just you. We're normal here in the East. I don't know what you guys are doing out West.
Yeah. Well, thanks a lot again, man. I appreciate it. And I know it wasn't the circumstances we would have hoped for, but it's been a pleasure having you on as always. And I'm sure we will be doing it again. Thank you, everyone, again for tuning in. I will be back for the pre-match live, getting ready for the Supercopa match. And then, of course, a post-match podcast with someone who is joining us live today, Dan Lucci. So I look forward to that.
Yeah, Dan.
There we go. As always, guys, I know it's a tough one to get over, and we won't. But as always, still with our hearts, it's Forza Juve. Fino alla fine. Ciao.